Carrie in Chicago, and we spent a lot of time over the years because I'm still in Boston, and she's the reason that I'm here. I moved out with her after college, and we lived together for 2 years. And as anyone knows, it's a pretty big transition, that college to real life thing. And she was one of the people that made it easy. I've been going through her emails for the last couple of weeks, just emails from friends, emails from her, because it's hard for me to piece together exactly what to say about her, but she always says it the best. So if you will pardon me taking some of her words and using them, but I also have just a little something I wrote that I'm just going to read verbatim, since I am no good at public speaking. Carrie initiated the life that I have now. It's the kind of thing she did and the kind of person she was. I wouldn't be in Boston if it wasn't for her. A lot has already been said about Carrie's adventures, her spirit, her friends, but Carrie was also one of the hardest workers that I knew. At Chicago, her regimen was strict. Morning run from Henry Crown at 7:30 a.m., class all day until practice at 3:30, bike back to her apartment, even then with the biking, and eat a quick dinner, and then to the Regenstein by 7 p.m. at the latest. She used to have contests with herself to see how quickly she could eat dinner and get back to the library. There she would work, focused and diligent, with one 15-minute break until about 11 or 12, and then home to bed. She was someone who inspired me to work harder, and even though I, as often as not, missed the morning run with her, or didn't make it to the library at all, I always knew she would be at that table on the 3rd floor, willing and ready to share her place. Her relationship with her parents, especially in college, always amazed me. She would call her dad when she was having trouble working a math problem, and he would help her over the phone or over email. A lot of our conversations centered around work-life balance and family, and she was very real and intuitive about what she wanted from life and how she wanted things to be. The quote from before she moved to Boston sums it up. All the things I want to change, like having my own space, liking my job, being a good friend, forming a permanent community, cannot be changed by going to Ecuador. This is when she was toying about whether or not to go. And if I don't have a boyfriend, I at least want to like my job or feel that I'm doing valuable work in some way. I want to be on a path to a job I keep for a while, at least in the same field, like teaching math. Teaching ESL is not on that path. In fact, although Ecuador will be a huge growing experience and really awesome, it feels a little frivolous to me, like I am a girl who can afford to dink around more instead of doing something useful. She had such a great perception of herself, and even though she traveled and did everything that we've all been talking about, she used her time well and responsibly. The last 2 days have been spent telling great Carrie stories, and while there isn't time to go over all of them, I have a few favorites from her friends from Chicago. All of the times we've seen her dance, and there have been a lot of them with ski trips and the weddings, but best was Jeff's wedding, when she was the center of the dance floor, decided to get down and do the worm to thunderous applause, revealing underneath her beautifully red dress a nice pair of granny panties, complete with smiley faces all over them. Wheeling a newly purchased but used and extremely ugly jade green couch down Norfolk Street so he wouldn't have to pay for delivery. She coined the phrase "get in my belly" during a euchre tournament in Maine on her first ski trip as a way to cheat with Nirav. The phrase has since been repeated in countless euchre tournaments, adding yet another phrase to the rich euchre lexicon. Carrie and Jeff tree skiing through Vail in 2 feet of powder. Carrie being asked to get up and sing on a camping trip in New Hampshire. She got up there and composed an entire rap about the chocolate chip cookie recipe. Carrie was never one to say goodbye at a party. When it was time to go, it was time to go, and she would vanish into the night. In college, it became known as pulling a G-rod. Carrie on long Sunday runs in college, and all of a sudden solving a proof in her head that she had been working on for days. We always had to find a way to write down the answer before the run was over. Carrie wearing clothes that belonged to her grandmother, and they looked good. Carrie and tractor streaking through Resort, Utah at 2 a.m. on New Year's Day in 3 feet of snow. She wearing only bright red socks and dress shoes. We have pictures, but they're not suitable for Facebook. Finding Carrie shirtless in my closet one weekday morning at 7 a.m. in 2001, which she recounted later over email in these words. Oops, sorry about that weirdness this morning. Here's what happened. I have my pants on and decide maybe to borrow a shirt, not really thinking about who's in the apartment or whether they might be getting up. Of course, you and Rich are both in the apartment and getting up. You leave your room not noticing the fact that I'm standing in the closet with my bra on. You continue not to notice for 30 seconds, and then Rich politely doesn't really acknowledge the bra part. I realize that this is a completely ridiculous situation and start laughing my head off, thus confusing Rich even more. See you tonight, thanks for the shirt. But best of was all the conversations that we've had. So many times that we've hashed our love lives, or lack thereof, discussing futures, moving decisions, job decisions. Her words were always thoughtful, intelligent, but cut to the chase and honest. And as always, in her own unique and hilarious verbiage. I found this spot-on email from July 5th, 2001, titled, "Stupid Boys." But if you want to be flippant and carefree acting, then you would email him back, since you want to go have fun and sing karaoke with boy or no boy. So then it would be okay to email him. Boys always like you back if you pretend you don't give a crap. And if you pretend long enough to not give a crap, then at some point you no longer do, which solves the problem. See you soon. I will miss her writing about her adventures and her ability to make a story out of anything. This email from her in 2002 is classic, recounting a trip to Nashville and a night out. I think some of you may have been on this email list. Shame. Last night we saw Wellesley Willis, who is a schizophrenic type 6'5" black man who used to play in the subway stations of Chicago on his Casio keyboard. He only had one song, but changed the lyrics according to which band he had seen the night before. Example, Soundgarden can rock, Soundgarden can rule. Anyway, before the show, we saw him hanging around, and I smiled at him as he walked by. He came over and we discussed the fact that he was going to rock. Then we discussed the fact that he was going to roll. Then he gently headbutted me 3 to 4 times and shook my hand. He has this weird growth in the middle of his forehead, so it made the headbutts that much better. There are a lot of things that I'm going to miss about Carrie, but our ability to relate regarding the stupid things we do on any given day is tops. I've also lost my partner in silly movie viewing, my book recommender, my conscience, and a person with a rare ability to take me out of myself. A person that I've known for 14 years and have lived through a lot with. She would drag me out on all kinds of adventures that I would never have gone on without her. One of my favorite of these adventures was Carrie taking me skiing for my 31st birthday just this past year. She cheerfully showed up at 6 a.m., pulling me out of bed. She knew I wouldn't be awake even though I said I would. Handing me a fresh egg sandwich that she had made wrapped in tinfoil and pointing me to the back seat where she had a pillow waiting. She and Nils drove the whole way to Vermont while I slept in the back. It was a great day. I'd like to finish by reading a poem. Bear with me here. 2 poems. The first by Henry David Thoreau. As we all know, nature was a prominent part of Carrie's life, and Thoreau, a self-described mystic, transcendentalist, and natural philosopher to boot, was a permanent fixture in Carrie's bookshelf. The poem is titled, aptly, Nature. O nature, I do not aspire to be the highest in thy choir, to be a meteor in the sky, or comet that may range on high, only a zephyr that may blow among the reeds by the river low. Give me thy most privy place where to run my airy race. In some withdrawn on public mead, let me sigh upon a reed, or in the woods with leafy din whisper the still evening in. For I had rather be thy child and people in the forest wild, than be the king of men elsewhere and most sovereign slave of care. To have one moment of thy dawn, then share the city's year forlorn. Some still work give me due, only be it near to you. And then the second small verse that I like to recite is by a gentleman called Neil Diamond. He wrote the song Sweet Caroline, and while it might not perfectly describe her, it always got her dancing, and that is how I will remember her. Where it began, I can't to begin know when, but then I know it's growing strong. Oh, wasn't the spring, and spring became the summer, who'd believe you come along? Oh, sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good.